What's up, everyone? Welcome to Pat's Chat. I'm Doug-Kyed, joined as always by Michael Hurley. Michael, how are we doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
Good. We have entered my favorite stretch of the schedule, Doug. We know this, right? This favorite calendar month of the year, mock draft season, is upon us. It's time to mock it up, Doug. That's what late March, early April's for.
It truly is. There's no time like it, where there's very little to do in the NFL calendar other than mock drafts at this point because free agency basically lasts like 2 days at this point. And it was stretched out to like 3 days this year because the Sunday night was kind of the real kickstart of free agency. Monday
Mm.
was when the Patriots made all their moves. Other teams were still making moves on Tuesday, but like it's a real trickling out after Monday or Tuesday where like there's still some guys out there, but no one's regularly getting signed at this point.
Yeah, and it's weird because remember, I think it was Vrabel, either Vrabel or Wolf at the combine. I'm pretty sure it was Vrabel saying like, "There's your top guys," and
Mhm.
everyone's like after, and then there's sort of the other. I forget what he said in the
Right.
middle tier, and then he said there's the guys they classify as opportunities.
Mm.
It felt like those guys, those top tier guys, are the ones you talk about on Monday and Tuesday. But then there'd be more of the middle tier guys and the opportunity guys, and I'm sure there will be,
Yeah.
but it's a slow trickle, definitely for the better part of a week that uh, they're not. I don't know. If you look at them right now and you say they got a draft coming up, but outside of that, are they done making impactful moves for this roster?
I don't think so. And we'll see. In many ways, I guess I would say I hope not.
Mm.
But I think in some ways that is just being hopeful for their sake. I don't care one way or the other.
Oh, I
That
care, Doug.
they'll
Doug, no, stop it. We've covered a very bad team for multiple years,
that is
and
true.
it would be better if some of their games sucked less. Like
That is fair.
the ultimate example this year was at Miami,
Yeah.
was one of the most painful 3 hours of football season. That so it's so we're allowed to hope that it's more entertaining and competitive and useful. Like it feels
That's a great way to
meaningless
put it.
after it's more meaning. It's like feels like a complete waste of time when it's been as bad as it has been. So I think we're
No, that's a
allowed.
great way to
I
put it.
know journalists with
Yeah.
the big J have to keep things on the up and up and say I'm just here for the stories. Well, the stories are better when the
Yeah.
team doesn't absolutely stink.
I would prefer them to have a functioning offensive line this year, which if the season started today, they would not. They would have Vidarian Lowe at left tackle, Layden Robinson at left guard, either Ben Brown or Cole Strange at center. I did want to address that, and I will go through the mock draft that I did today, and kind of explain a little bit more about some of the reasonings behind it and everything. But like with the center position in general, we'll also talk about Cooper Cup not signing, even though we won't have that much to say about it. But center, like Garrett Bradbury's out there now, and there is that subset of Patriots fans that are like, why would you want Garrett Bradbury? We already have Ben Brown and Cole Strange,
Mm.
and like the defense is that Bradbury allowed the most pressures at center last year, which isn't great. Um, but Ben Brown was signed off of a practice squad midway through last season. Cole Strange played 2 games at center, neither of which he looked great at the position. Like Garrett Bradbury's been doing this for like whatever it is, 8 years, 9 years. There's a level of comfort that you would have that he would be able to get the job done better. And it's not as if he's going to cost a lot of money. So even as just like competition, I would encourage that signing just
Yeah.
to bring someone else in who knows what he's doing, has been an NFL starter. In my own personal opinion, that is valuable enough to add personally.
Yeah, I think I feel the exact same way. I heard you on the radio last night on my way home
Mm.
from TV because you
Mm.
and I are international media superstars. We've got
True,
all of the
truly.
mediums covered:
Yep.
podcast, radio, TV, print,
Mhm.
internet.
Mhm.
Um, I took the trash out today. That's another skill I have. But
I did that
um,
yesterday.
but I heard that, and it's the same thing I would say for Cam Robinson at left tackle, where
Right.
is PFF grade and blah blah. It's like, hear you. No one's saying either those players would be saviors. But the point is to have a professional athlete that's played that position in his
Yeah.
life.
Right.
Cole Strange is not a center. He tried moving there last year. Evaluations last year, probably not worth doing, but it wasn't as if he stepped in and you said, oh, hell yeah, they've got a new center. And Ben Brown, we've been over, he was good by comparison to what was going
Right.
on. But you like to
Yeah.
have it, there's something to be said. You could use any sport you want. But remember back in the early days of analytics, baseball would always have VORP,
Oh, yeah.
value replacement player.
Yeah.
You don't have replacement players right now. Like you're
Right.
sub replacement players. You
Yeah.
need to just get at a sort of base level, and then
Yeah.
you can work from there. And no one's saying go crazy to break the bank on guys that are getting released by their teams, guys that have suspect blocking grades or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But you were right. Great job by you. To get someone that is just a professional at that position is critical. Like it's you can't function without a baseline of an offensive line. And right now they're not there. And I would argue they're not close.
Yeah, I mean, last year's offensive line had to use a baseball reference again, like a negative WAR. They were below replacement players. So, and I felt the same way. Even like, I don't want to go deep into this signing by any means, but like when they signed Wes Schweitzer, Patriots fans were like losing their minds, being like, "Oh, we're signing the basement, like we're shopping the basement again." Blah blah blah. It's like, sure, you gave him like $1.5 million, whatever it is, but like at least he's done some of these things before. At least he's played, at least he's started at guard, at least he's started at center. He's started a decent amount of games in his life. He's been injured the last couple of years, but like if you're like, you can't sign your entire roster with guys who make $10 million. Like there's going to be guys who make $1 or $2 million. And that's the type of offensive linemen they should be filling their roster with right now. If they can't land the big dogs, just guys who know what they're doing.
And we have to talk about spending because we know they entered with the most cap space in the league, just an absurd amount of cap space. And I understand if you run a business, your expenditures might fluctuate year to year. There's going to be some changes. So I kind of understand if ownership is reluctant to just treat money like it's fake this year. Like Doug,
Right.
You could accuse either one of us of being Disney adults because we are so well studied with these family trips to Disney World. But when I went there, I took something in my brain. We could talk about severance, the severance procedure.
Mhm.
I took my understanding of dollars and value and
100%.
and I shut it off.
Yep.
And that way I was able to survive a week in Central Florida where money, you can't be like, oh no, this thing that's usually $3 is $15.
Right.
You just have to get through it.
It's just the reality. Yeah.
I don't think the Patriots are doing that this year because I'm looking at over the cap and I'm looking at cap space. I'm going to give you the top 5. I know numbers and audio doesn't always work, so I'll do it as quickly as I can. But if we go to 5, that's the Lions. They have $49.5 million of cap space. Number 4 would be the Chargers, call it $58 million. Number 3, the Seahawks, $60.8 million. And number 2, the Cardinals at $67.5 million. And they're still at number 1 with $97 million in cap space is the Patriots. And so if you understand what I'm saying,
Who hasn't counted in that yet? Because that is interesting.
Yeah, well, you get the point is
no, for sure.
You can't come in and be like, well, money's fake this year. We're going to overpay here. We're going to yeah, they tried to overpay Godwin a few million. Yeah, they overpaid Milton Williams maybe a little bit, but they're not like, all right, well, Cam Robinson's still out there. Give him $18 million, you know?
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you still have to overspend, even if not to that degree, in order to field a roster that's going to make. And again, there's opportunity next year, given that schedule and what we think the rest of the league will be, to be a relevant football team that when they put the graphic up in December, it's not they traded this pick and got Jalen Polk and Javon Baker instead of Ladd McConkey. It's in the hunt. Right. And I think there's value to that from a business perspective that I don't know that they're seeing given this lack of urgency after day one of free agency.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And so in Robert Spillane, Harold Landry, Marcus Epps, Kayvon Chason, and Wes Schweitzer all are not accounted for on the cap. So that is a solid amount of players, but they would still probably be number 1 if I had to guess in cap space. So yeah, they do still have a lot of money that they can spend. And maybe one of those guys is Cam Robinson. Maybe he comes in at $10 million or something like that. Maybe they sign Garrett Bradbury for $5 million. Maybe they trade for Brandon Ayuk or but those wide receiver options before getting the mock draft are dwindling because Cooper Kupp not coming here, going to Seattle. We were on top of that completely last week. You don't want to move your family 3,000 miles away from the rest of your family. It's just not.
You were talking before Kupp decided about where he grew up in Washington, went to Eastern Washington. You were on it first. I know you're being humble right now, but you were on the Pacific Northwest urge first. So credit to you.
And then T. Higgins re-signed with the Bengals, so the trade is off the table there now. So Jamar Chase, what was it, 40.5 million? T. Higgins, 28.5 million. I feel like the Patriots would have paid him significantly more than that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I mean, with the tag, what the cost would have been a second probably.
Right.
But once you do that, you're pot committed.
Right.
Yeah, that deal wasn't crazy.
I agree.
Because if it was 40, we'd be like, well, we've never seen him be a 1, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's not a bad deal. Apparently he likes Cincinnati. And
I think like him hiring the same agent that Jamar Chase had obviously played a huge role in that. And I think Joe Burrow was probably on them to be like, we want to keep everyone around, take less money. But I would not have been shocked if the Patriots had given him over $30 million. So I was surprised by that figure.
I think it speaks real quick.
The man loves cinnamon chili. So
I think it speaks to the importance, and everyone knows this, it's not a novel thought, of a young quarterback who can get people to believe, because I don't think any of that's happening if Burrow didn't put his foot down and say, this is what we're going to do.
For sure.
And it makes a guy like T. Higgins give up what would have been more money elsewhere. Well, granted, he was franchised, but if you cause enough of a stink, you can get your way out of there and get a new deal. The fact that he signed for a reasonable amount, I think just speaks to that power. And that's what the Patriots have to hope they will have. What's Burrow entering? Like year 6? 5? He was COVID. Was he at LSU in COVID?
He was 2000.
Wow. Time moves fast and slow. 2020, some would say. Either way, year 4, 5, 6, you want your quarterback to be a Pied Piper of sorts to bring them through. And by the way, I'm looking up now because where they're from matters. Amari Cooper's a Floridian. So he's one of those guys that I kind of would be intrigued on, of like the Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, like all the guys that are over 31, 32.
Yeah.
Cooper is a little bit younger. He's 30. He's going to be 31. His numbers stunk last year, but really bad situation in Cleveland and just weird usage in Buffalo, I think is fair to say. I'm not sure he's cooked.
I don't think they're very high on him, but I personally would be okay with them taking the risk there. I don't think it's going to happen, but
do you know where he was picked in the NFL draft?
I'm going to guess like 11th,
4th overall.
Really?
4th overall. Number 4 pick. Speaking of number 4 picks, Tet McMillan.
I was like, he's probably asking me this because it was 4th overall, but I don't recall him being the 4th overall pick. So I was trusting
2015.
my brain.
We can do a little history, Doug. 2015, number 1 in 2015 was a quarterback. He went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by the name of Jameis Winston.
I could have said that. Yeah.
Do you remember number 2 that year? Not a good
Marcus
pick.
Mariota.
That's true. Now this, I would not have gotten number 3. I would have been like, I don't remember. Do you remember number 3 of the Jags?
Jags. Was it number 3 to the Jags?
I'll even he was a defensive end out of Florida.
He just signed with the Cowboys. What's his name? Give me Dante Fowler.
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah. And then you had Amari Cooper, Brandon Sheriff, Leonard Williams.
Sheriff was 5th. Good Lord! Wow.
Yeah. He was the Outland Trophy winner in 2014. Doug, show some respect. Anyways, I don't even know. So you've hearing the Patriots aren't high in Amari Cooper?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting them to show much interest in Cooper or Stephon Diggs. We'll see if that changes now that things have changed, but I haven't heard one way or the other on that one.
So that's an issue, Doug, as we look forward. If they're like, you know what, I don't like any of those guys at receiver, and you know what, we'll get a tackle in the draft. You're not putting yourself in a position to have a great draft if you're just in desperate need. And again, I heard you say that on the radio last night, where you kind of might have to force a center pick earlier than you want, and whoever wants to do that.
Yeah.
When you could take another shot at a wide receiver or a running back, and you have to take a center because you need to. If you're going into next month saying, you know what, these guys, yeah, they have 650 catches and 7,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in the NFL, but screw it, we don't need that. If that's actually the mentality, that's a problem.
Well, I think that it's about like personalities, and you want to know who you're bringing in. You want to think that they still have something left in the tank. And like last year with the Bills, it did not look like Amari Cooper did. So we'll see. But like, no, 100%. That's why I really wanted to just get like, I want the Patriots to get guys in free agency, like a guy at left tackle, a guy at wide receiver, just so that you don't have to force these things. Like a guy like Bradbury at center, so that you don't have to overdraft someone, just so that you do have all of your options out there. I've repeated this ad nauseum at this point, but like, it just felt like the Patriots were drafting for need in the first, second, and third round last year. And obviously it worked out with Drake May. That was great. But with Jalen Polk and Ken Wallace, it felt like there was a little bit of a reach, and things didn't go well. So as far as the guys who,
what you
with
said on
Brandon
receiver
Ayuk,
there.
oh, sorry, yeah.
Okay. I just because I'm with you on Diggs. Like I think Diggs blew up in Minnesota, it blew up on Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Mhm.
They get him for CJ Stroud in Houston year 2, and they're already like, oh, let's move on. I'm with you on that. But do you think the Patriots think all of those guys are problems? Like there's that list of like 7 guys that are past their primes, but are still probably useful for a year or two. Like you've got
Yeah.
Keenan Allen, as I mentioned, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks. I know no one would get excited about that. Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, who's over 32, Robert Woods. Like, are all of these guys in the eyes of the Patriots just terrible people you don't want anywhere near your building? Like, I find that hard to
No,
believe.
I don't think that's the case. And like with Brandon Cooks, since he's been here before, he was with Josh McDaniels, like that could be a possibility. But like I think that if you're signing Brandon Cooks, like
Cooks doesn't get me excited.
is there a guarantee that he's gonna be better than, I don't know, Mac Hollins next year, or like,
Right.
or Kayshon Boutte? Like maybe,
His numbers
probably.
were terrible last year, Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not as if he was with a team that didn't like need wide receiver help. So yeah, he's been under 1,000 yards every year since 2021. Like he's played a decent amount of games. It's not happening for him. So I don't know what like if he's just gonna be another guy who gets 400 yards next year. The Patriots have enough of those guys right now. You know?
Yeah, I only included him because he's one of those guys, but I just feel like
Yeah.
I know
Well,
those
he's the
guys
one guy
aren't
who actually has a connection. So it's interesting.
true, and we know that's important. I
Right.
just there's a need, in my opinion, still. Like Mac Hollins is a decent ad, as we said when they signed him, for
Yeah.
lower on the depth chart, red
Yeah.
zone target type situation. A guy who's actually caught footballs for a long time in the NFL is a useful thing for them.
I've been a fan of Mac Hollins for a long time, not to get too deep into the Mac Hollins thing. And then like he met with us on Friday, and it sounds like he's gonna pester the young wide receivers enough that like either they're gonna be like, shut up, I hate you, or like,
Mm.
okay, fine, I'll try harder. I know it's like not the biggest thing, and like maybe that doesn't mean anything in the long run, but I think having a guy who will push these young wide receivers more than who they had last year is nothing but a good thing.
Fair
Because I
enough.
think that some of those young wide receivers definitely do need to be pushed. As far as guys out there who they could still acquire, let's call it like Brandon Ayuk. Everyone keeps saying AJ Brown, but I don't know what the Eagles' willingness to move him would be. But like, let's say like Brandon Ayuk, AJ Brown, Jacoby Myers. Do you actually have confidence that the Patriots will actually trade for any of those guys?
I do not, and I want to bring this up
No.
because this is never brought up. If this is according to Over the Cap, and I trust them much more than I would trust myself. If AJ Brown is traded
Well, this is a big thing. Yeah.
before June 1st,
Right.
the Eagles will take on $31 million, 31 and a half dead cap money this year, 20.8 next year, 10 million the year after that, 4 million the year after that.
Right.
I haven't added that all up. It's a lot. I just feel like there are certain players that cannot be traded for that reason, and AJ Brown is one. I know
I think it would have to be after June 1st, which complicates matters, but, like, maybe they could agree to something beforehand and then,
Right.
you
Then
know?
it's 10.7 in dead money
Yeah,
this year. You're right. It could be that I suppose if you do it that way, that is
yeah.
much less. I still don't know that the Eagles want to do that. I
I
know
know, well,
AJ
that's the thing
Brown,
is that, like, yeah.
well,
Do they
because he
actually
read a
want to?
book on this, because he read a book on the sideline. It's like he also helped you win a Super Bowl.
Right.
Um, I don't see them being in a rush to get rid of him because he's still good. If he was not good and caused some sort of problem, then sure. Um, I don't know. Like I I don't know what the Niners are doing, so the IU question is hard to answer
I know,
because
yeah,
are they just tearing it down to the studs out there? I don't really follow their plan. It's just
right.
trust that McCaffrey is going to be healthy for the first time and see what happens. Is that so? If they
Yeah,
are in sell mode and Ayuk isn't exactly, I'd argue they could have gotten more for him last year
right. Oh,
before
for sure.
the injury,
Yeah.
even though teams would have had to sign him. So I guess if he's available, I don't see the harm in them. What do you think? A second?
Eh, or a 3rd. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean third is a no-brainer because again, the dearth and the need and the desire,
yeah.
the need to have someone like that, even if he's not fully healthy and not ready to go until week 6.
I
That
saw
would
a
be
graphic I saw a graphic on Twitter today that was Patriots 4th overall pick for Ayuk, the 11th overall pick, and the 49ers second rounder. That might be too much for the 49ers, but if I'm the Patriots, I'm like, sounds pretty good.
yeah, and it goes into the a thought I had yesterday because Ted McMillan ran his 40 and
Right.
everyone was going bananas. And then did that number kind of climb as the day went
Yeah, it
on?
did. Yeah. It
Yeah.
like started out at 4.48 and like wound up at like a 4.55 or 4.57.
Yeah, which is probably, I don't know. I'm not a huge 40 guy. I'm willing to say whatever. But he's a guy that probably in some years you would never look at as a number 4 pick. And the same thing with Will Campbell, where you're kind of
Right.
like, I've said it here, like you can't take him 4.
Right.
However, given this year, you might have to take someone at 4 that might otherwise have gone 11.
Right.
Um, so that drop down from 4 to 11 could be significant. You know,
Yeah.
you got people talking about Tyler Warren and stuff. Like I feel like
Right.
every player we're talking about will be gone by 11.
It's certainly
So
possible. Yeah. 11's pretty far to get down there.
yeah,
Um, but so let's talk about this mock that I put together.
let's do it. Doug's mock
And
1.0. How many point ohs are we going?
oh my God, I didn't even put a point oh on this one. This is probably like 3 or 4.0 at this point. It's
Really?
post free agency though. But I'm trusting what everyone's kind of putting out there right now that the 2 quarterbacks will be off the board in the top 3 picks. Seems like Shedeur to the Giants is kind of picking up steam a little bit. Sounds like, I mean, everyone's kind of slotting in Cam Ward at the number 1 overall pick. So who's got number
Do
2?
you
The
think it'll be
Brown?
Tennessee or do you think they'll be trading?
I don't know. I truly
Okay.
don't know. But like the Titans need a quarterback. So there is some sense in that. Um, and then what? The Browns have the number 2 overall pick,
Is that a
I
question?
believe.
Yeah.
They do, right?
Yeah.
I'm so yes, they brought back Miles Garrett, but like so maybe they don't take Abdul Carter, but it does still feel like Abdul Carter's like the best guy in this draft outside, like maybe just the best guy overall in this draft. So I had Travis Hunter at the 4th overall pick. And maybe that's wishful thinking that they can solve their wide receiver issue while staying put. 2 quarterbacks and Abdul Carter off the board. But if it's Travis Hunter, I just say you're playing wide receiver. You're going to be a part-time cornerback. We'll let you do a little bit of that. But currently, right now in our situation, we need a number 1 wide receiver. We need someone who can be a playmaker for Drake May. And that's hard to find otherwise. We found cornerbacks with a 17th overall pick and in free agency. We have not found a wide receiver with those in those opportunities. So Travis Hunter, come on down. You're a wide receiver. Thoughts?
It's interesting. So there's 2 things at play with me. I just have to, I mean, I can't answer it without being honest. And one is I don't fancy myself an elite college evaluator in the
Yes.
sense that I can watch you dominate college and still think, eh, I can still really question what that does at the next level. And there's tons of examples of great college players that don't pan out in the pros and vice versa. So I guess I have a hang up in just, can he be a number one in the NFL? That seems, I don't want to say pie in the sky, but it's certainly hopeful, I think.
Yeah.
That being said, he'd be their best receiver out of
Mhm.
the gate. But I don't know. I'm thrown off by someone that plays two positions at that level,
I
because
know.
it's just thinking about how specialized the NFL is and how specialized being a college receiver is, and he was great at it. But I just have some questions. That being said, if Carter's gone,
Mhm.
I don't hate the gamble on a guy that, if he didn't get hurt 2 years ago, would have been the best player in college football for 2 straight years. I'm
Right.
okay
Yeah.
with that type of, I don't even, if you know, what to call it, a gamble. It's sort of a calculated risk, and I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I don't know that it's ultimately the solution they'll need.
Right. And I think that's fair. I think that there's a wide receiver on the board who, for one reason or another, is worth the top 5 pick. You're picking there at 4. You need a wide receiver. Just do it. And yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think that he'll be better at wide receiver while not also focusing a lot of attention on cornerback, or not focusing as much attention on cornerback. But overall, like, he was the most talented player in college football for 2 straight years, and that holds a lot of value. And I don't know if he could be a 1,200, 15 touchdown guy in the NFL, but he's got the most upside out of anyone in this draft to be that guy. So that's why I'm taking him. I will say, despite what you just said about Will Campbell, if only one quarterback goes off the board in the top 3, or God forbid, 0 quarterbacks, the Patriots are sitting there at 4, and Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are both off the board, I'm more okay with taking Will Campbell at 4 in that situation. I can't take Will Campbell if Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are there. But if
Yeah.
both those guys are gone, and it's like Will Campbell or Jalen Walker or Mason Graham or the right tackle Membu out of Missouri, it's just like, at that point, I feel like all these guys are grouped together. You need the tackle, just take the tackle.
That's what I was trying to explain earlier, where maybe in other years, you could trade down to 9 and still take a player like
Right.
Campbell. I don't think you have that freedom this year, just
Yeah.
because it seems like there aren't
Yeah.
even really 5 top 5 picks in the
Right.
draft. There's a lot of
Yeah.
guys in
Yes.
that 3 to 10 range. But I just figured out while we were talking, if you wanted him to play a little bit both ways, Travis Hunter, that is,
Mhm.
I think corner's a little too specific. It's a little too. What about just like a center field safety in the NFL,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
he can ball hawk, he can play sort of,
I don't hate that.
deep middle,
Yeah.
and uses athleticism and ball skills. In that way, he can focus on playing receiver
Right.
while still utilizing some of his defensive ability, instinct, talent, without, because to play corner in the NFL, you
I
can't
don't know.
just do it.
There's a lot of communication involved at safety, though. So,
I
like,
know, but what if you treat him sort of like they used to treat Gilmore, where Gilmore had a man and
right.
he did his thing and everyone else does something else? You're the
Yeah.
center fielder. Everyone else has a different responsibility. He gets the deep man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a
I
thought.
guess in situations where you need that, you could just throw him on the field. So, because, like, that's also a good way to limit him. And, like, yeah, like, Deron Harmon was that guy where he was like, he wasn't necessarily a starter, but he was a free safety who could share the field with Devin McCourty and do a bunch of different things. And, like, they could just toss him on the field in certain situations. I don't hate that. Yeah. I mean, I also
Deron
think,
Harmon. Deron Harmon had 6 interceptions in college. Do you know how many Travis Hunter had?
what, 7? No, more
Seven.
than that. More than, no,
7. And he also played
that's
offense.
that's in the
So
FBS. He probably had some more at Jackson State that you're not
you were
seeing.
for sure right about that. But the point is, I think that's a great comparison,
Yeah.
because in theory, it's like, well, you can't just play defense. But in the other side, it's like, well, who's a better athlete, Travis Hunter or Deron Harmon? You
Right.
know?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
we just nailed it. We just solved the draft. I like it. I like this mock draft. This is as much thought as I've ever poured into a mock draft. So I just want that noted.
My next 2 picks, 38th overall, Arante Ursary out of Minnesota, and who's an offensive tackle. Pick 69, center Jared Wilson out of Georgia. You kind of have to do this. Like if you take Hunter at 4, you either have to trade up for a tackle or just take the best tackle available at 38 because you don't want to wait until 69. And then in the 3rd round, depending on how they view the center situation in this draft, like you probably have to reach once again for another offensive lineman and fill that star need at center. I don't know what an offensive line looks like with 2 rookie starters, 2nd and 3rd round picks, but it feels better than the alternative of Vidarian Lowe at left tackle and either Ben Brown or Cole Strange at center.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. Wasn't Vollmer a 2nd round pick who had to start at left tackle because Matt Light got hurt? This is ancient.
Yep.
That was 09, I want to say. Is that right?
It was.
No,
yes.
no.
Yeah, it was.
It was 09?
Yeah.
That's
the year that they had like 4 2nd round picks, I think.
Okay.
Patrick Chung, Ron Brace, Sebastian Vollmer. Someone else, maybe?
Yeah. But that it can happen. Remember at the time Vollmer was considered a big reach because not a ton was known about him, but it ended up working. That doesn't mean you can just go ahead and do it and assume it's going to work, especially in a year where even the top ranked tackle might have some major question marks. So, but I agree with you where you kind of have to, and that's where the center thing kind of bugs me because I think we understand the left tackle thing.
For sure, yeah.
Like Ronnie Stanley
center,
wasn't available.
Yeah. Center, it's easier to find a guy. Yeah.
What if they signed
Darius Butler? By the way, was the other 2nd round pick. They had 4.
Wow. Pat McAfee show fame.
It's true.
Way more famous for that than playing cornerback for the Patriots. The question that I was just asking: let's say they sign Bradbury and Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
What? I'm not asking for specifics, but let's say you were doing this mock draft. Mm-hmm. How many more doors are open, in your opinion, if you have 2 veteran guys who might not be great but are serviceable, and you get a couple of shots in the 2nd and 3rd round there, 3 shots really, to add some talent? What more doors are open?
I still want to take a tackle in the 2nd or 3rd round, even if you sign Cam Robinson. At center, I think you could probably wait until like the 4th or 5th round to add a center at that point. You don't necessarily need to reach because at least you have someone who can play it. If they go into the draft with Ben Brown and Cole Strange, like, you're going to need a center of the future, or at least you have to plan that way. So I do think you have to reach a little bit. While I'm thinking about it, some true broadcasting Hall of Famers in that 2009 NFL draft.
Okay.
Darius Butler, as you mentioned on the Pat McAfee show. Sebastian Vollmer, a German superstar broadcaster.
Yep.
Rich Ornberger on San Diego radio, I believe. Julian Edelman, a podcasting superstar.
It's true.
I mean, say what you will about that draft talent-wise. It was fine. They got Patrick Chung as well, but some real guys were competing with the likes of us in that class.
That's true. They got Patrick Chung 1.0, which I want to state was not the same as Patrick Chung 2.0 when he came back.
Because they forced him to play free safety. It was like, what are you guys doing?
They forced him to free safety, and I think they want him to be a thumper in the way that they had Merriweather kind of follow Harrison. They kind of wanted to follow that, but the problem was the NFL made that position illegal.
Right.
And so Chung was always just like flying at people, but trying not to headhunt and just missing them entirely. But by the time he came back, one heck of a football player. So
there are a lot of Patriots fans. Actually, we've looked at the demographics. Most of them probably remember this era based on the demographics of who listen. But in general, with Patriots fans, there are a lot who don't remember the like 3 or 4 years that they just could not figure out the safety position. And they were like, oh, we'll just do a cover 2, but neither of the safeties could cover the deep half of the field. So you had guys like Merriweather, Brandon McGowan, Patrick Chung, James Sanders.
James Sanders was like the best of the bunch.
Yeah, but still, like,
speaks to
none of those. But then, like, they were like, all right, Devin McCourty, you're going to move from cornerback. And then, like, safety was just fixed with Chung and McCourty for the next 10 years or whatever it was. But before that, it was horrendous watching the Patriots try to prevent deep plays. It was just like 50-yard catch after 50-yard catch on this team. They won despite it because they had Tom Brady, but it was ugly.
I agree. It was I'm trying to, there was a game in Denver that was particularly just embarrassing, like a waste of time. That might have been
Yeah.
06 though. I might be previous to that era. Remember when Deltha O'Neal was on the team? When was
Oh
that?
yeah.
08.
Yeah.
There was just the defensive backfield was a bit of an issue there, but and that was a long time ago though.
But there was a long stretch because I don't think McCourty moved to safety until 2012. So
I think it was the middle of 2011, or toward the end of 2011, the second
no, I
year.
think it was after they traded for Talib in 2012, was it?
We should know this, Doug. We should know
No,
this.
because he was a rookie in 2010 and was great. He was like a Pro Bowler.
Yes.
In 2011, he struggled because they went more man coverage. They trade for Aqib Talib midway through the 2012 season, and I think
Okay,
that's
so
when he
it's
moved to safety. I believe.
third year.
I think it
Yeah.
was his third year. And then by 2013, he was like full time there.
One thing about me, Doug, is I'm typically wrong. So just something to consider whenever I say anything. Just the brain doesn't work like it used to.
It's fair. It's very fair. But it was one of the most important moves that Bill Belichick made, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to control F on his thing, on his Wikipedia. Following the Aqib Talib trade, it was reported that McCourty would be permanently moving to free safety until moving back to cornerback in the final 2 regular season games.
He did, yeah. I'm looking at his PFF right now, and it was week 7 that he started at free safety. Week 16 and 17 was back at cornerback. For the playoffs, he was back at safety.
So there was injuries that year to Steve Gregory, of course, and Patrick Chung. So that necessitated.
And that was Patrick Chung 1.0.
Yes.
It was not yet Patrick Chung 2.0. You're right.
He probably got hurt trying to headhunt and landing on his shoulder awkwardly after missing because you can't headhunt.
It's true. So, yeah, we got, going back to the draft, Jared Wilson. Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, is like a crazy athlete. He's 310 pounds and ran a 4.8 440, which is just pretty wild.
Pretty good.
Ursary is actually a good athlete too, 331 pounds and ran like a 5.15. So he played well against Abdul Carter. I took another wide receiver, the third round pick, Jalen Royals, fell out of Utah State. Fun fact about him, he had 15 touchdowns in 2023. That's a lot. And last season ended early with a foot injury, but before that, he was averaging 120 yards per game. So the guy can play. Okay.
I trust you. I'm going to trust you on that one. Speaking of foot injury, I meant to bring it up earlier. Do you think that was anything, the Abdul Carter foot injury that popped up in the combine? Because I don't know, the fact that he didn't get it surgically taken care of. If I'm drafting him 3rd overall or 4th overall, wouldn't you want him to have adjusted?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I guess if it heals on its own, that's probably the better alternative, but you do have to trust that it's going to heal on its own.
Right. I don't need a week 4 stress fracture that ends his rookie season necessarily, but
yeah.
I have not personally examined the x-rays, so I can't speak to what it was.
Gotta get you in there.
Yeah. Those combine stuff, that was kind of a big story. Like that feels like it's out. I never saw the movie Jerry Maguire, but it feels like something that would have popped up there in Jerry Maguire.
Did you just not see movies growing up?
We were
younger. Do you have a black, because 2 weeks in a row now, you've never seen Back to the Future. You haven't seen Jerry Maguire.
This was a thing.
Like 2 big ones.
Back when I was on the radio program with guys that were like 8 to 10 years older than me, they would be floored at all the movies I haven't seen. And I was kind of like, I mean, 80s movies for one, I've seen 10% of the ones you're supposed to have seen. Like I missed a ton in there. And then, I mean, Jerry Maguire's what, 95?
Yeah.
And yeah, they masked it with football, but it was a rom-com. I wasn't in a rush to see rom-coms when I was 9 years old. So I saw parts of it. I saw enough of it to know I didn't want to watch the whole thing.
I watched I watched a ton of movies in like high school and end of middle school. So that's why I banged out most of those. But yeah, it's worth seeing. It's a good movie. Show me the money. Do you know that quote? It's from the movie.
I'm familiar with that part. I've seen a little bit, but I can't say that I'm well versed. Who is the competing agent? Was it Jay Moore?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I know some stuff.
Multiple agents have told me that movie is based on them, by the way. So that's fun.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Yeah, the one Tom Cruise plays. Yeah, that was me. I'm Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I'm Tom Cruise. Multiple guys. It's fun. 4th round pick. I liked this one.
Did you go 7?
Hell yeah.
Oh my God.
This won't take that long. But
No. I'm not saying. I'm just. God bless you.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's, I think, Bashul Tutin. He's a Virginia Tech running back. And let me tell you about him. He's
Mhm.
5'9", 206 pounds. Not the biggest guy. Runs a 4.32 40-yard dash. Tell me the Patriots don't need some 4.3 speed in their backfield. He had 1,159 rushing yards last year.
Yeah.
54% came on 15+ yard carries.
Doug, I watched him in one of those games against BC.
Oh yeah.
Do you know how many yards he had that day? He had 266
I
yards
was gonna
on
guess 200 yards.
18 carries. He scored 3 touchdowns. I remember him.
See, you were first on Bashul Tutin.
I was like, this guy, future Patriot in the 4th round.
I just like Ramondre Stevenson is who he is. Antonio Gibson has good speed, but he's a bigger back. Not necessarily like you just want a guy that can run really fast, like that Isaac
Yeah.
Pacheco, like the what's his name on the Dolphins, Devon Achane. Like you want that type of guy in your backfield. Is he gonna start? Maybe not. Maybe he's too small to start. But like, just throw some speed in there. It would just be fun. I think. I don't know.
I would like to turn on the tape of him at North Carolina A&T in 2022 when he rushed for 1,300 yards. I don't know who they were playing. I just like to see some dominance on film there.
Yeah, no, that'd be a lot of fun. And
a surprising lack of receptions, though. Not a big pass catcher.
I know, but that's something weird in college where like sometimes they just don't really want to use those guys that much in the passing game to just kind of limit them a little bit. And I feel
Easier to
like
just give it to him.
I feel like in general, like, college teams don't use running backs as pass catchers enough. I might be way out of bounds on that, but I don't know. It just feels like a thing.
Fair enough. I like that pick though. I like that. We're saving that one in the Pats chat chamber.
Bashul Tutin. 5th overall pick, 5th round. It's another fun one. Holland Pierce, offensive tackle out of Rutgers. He is 6'8", 341 pounds. Now, we've talked a lot about arm length on this podcast in general because of Will Campbell. Will Campbell is what? 32 and 5/8 inches? Holland Pierce, 36-inch arms.
Those are long.
No concern about Holland Pierce's arm length.
Are they too long?
At that point, I think he was over 400 pounds when he went to Rutgers, but then like got in shape. I think he didn't allow a sack last season as well, but definitely a guy that like you don't necessarily think that he can come in right away and start. But like as far as like developmental guys, you can't do much better than Holland Pierce.
I'm with you. Say no more with the arm lengths. You know,
That's all you needed to hear, right?
That's all I needed. That's a yardstick on each arm, just swatting everyone away. I love it.
Okay, so he did allow one sack last year, but
there was a fly in his face. There was a fly buzzing around right before.
He was pretty good. Like he was like a 4-year starter at left tackle. Like Holland Pierce. Honestly, he might not even be there in the 5th round, but that's where the projections are currently putting him. I'll run through the 7th round picks quicker. Sean Dolak in the 7th round, Buffalo linebacker, non-combine invitee. But let me tell you something about Sean Dolak. Consensus All-American.
Okay.
He had 168 tackles, 5 interceptions, 19 tackles for loss, and 5 pass breakups last season. He's only 6 foot 223, but ran a 4.55 40 at his pro day. Kind of crazy that guy's not invited to the combine though, right? Like consensus All-American, and you're like, no, we don't need you. So
I don't know the politics of that, but it seems fishy.
Chip on his shoulder. Yaya Black, defensive tackle out of Iowa, 6'6", 336 pounds, 35-inch arms. And then in the 7th round, BJ Adams, cornerback out of UCF, 6'2", 182 pounds, runs like a 4.5, but I like those tall cornerbacks at the end of the draft just to see if you got anything there. So offensive players with the first 6 picks, no defensive player until the 7th round. I don't know if the Patriots would actually do that with Mike Vrabel as their head coach, but I think it's what they should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, they just did it in free agency the other way, so I don't see the need to load up on defense if you just did it in free agency. And isn't that
right?
I guess if you were to pick a side of the ball where you're more liable to overspend on players that don't pan out, it would be offense. So the fact that I feel like defensive free agents are a little bit safer than offensive free agents, but
especially once guys that they've all worked with before. I know they didn't work with Milton Williams, but still, it's like, what you're looking at.
I mean, Doug, a year ago, granted, Gerard Mayo is not Mike Vrabel, and I don't know how many decisions Gerard Mayo was actually making because he seemed to mostly be a spectator, but quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, wide receiver, defensive back, quarterback, tight end. That's where they went last year. So the need often dictates things like that. So I could see that happening. Do you want to bang through any comments we got here? We got
I was actually just looking at them. Our guy Carlos said Bashul Tutin had 0 under center runs during 2 years at Virginia Tech. Does that worry you? Perhaps a little bit, but I mean, that's kind of the college game at this point. And I wouldn't even hate using him, at least early in his career, on shotgun runs.
Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah, I guess I'd have to talk to someone about that because I feel like it's almost harder to run from the shotgun. You're almost at a disadvantage.
Right. Yeah.
If you can get a couple steps to build up your steam before you get the ball, it's almost an advantage.
Right.
And Drake May is still adjusting to under center life too. So
for sure. Ball's life, running back, running behind no one at left tackle, left guard, center is going to be hilarious. That would be hilarious if they just didn't put anyone out there.
That would be like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme from a movie I have seen, a movie I think sucks, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that would be him pointing at the screen saying, I've seen this movie before. Nowhere to go. Very fun. Hilarious, not the word I would use, but I understand the sentiment that it's
Daniel Connolly, Stores, Connecticut, got disrespected a few episodes ago, but I'm just catching up now.
What did we say?
I don't know. Probably said something bad about New England or something. I don't know.
We're talking about UConn. I don't remember talking about UConn, but I do want to bring this up because last year you might have seen the UConn men dominate the basketball tournament there that they do every year. They call it March Madness. I want to. Yeah. It's a whole thing. It's on the news. I want to get this right because let me just get it right. I don't want to be inaccurate. I strive for accuracy. And UConn opens the tournament women's this year. Women's. And they're playing Arkansas State. Arkansas State, whatever they are, it looks like maybe a Devil Lion. I think they're the Devil Lions. They went 21-10, like a good season for whoever they play. You'd figure, UConn's 31-3. They'll be the favorite. Do you know how much they're favored by? UConn? Do you know what the spread is?
Is it? I'm going to go 25.
Okay, good guess because that's a really big spread. The spread is 44.5. I'm invested in this game. I want to gamble on this game. 44.5.
That's a lot of points.
That is a lot of points. UConn has won some big games this year.
That is a lot of points. Yeah.
Because I was looking at this 44.5 point spread, right? So I'm looking at some of UConn's biggest win. They won 92-57 against Marquette. They won 91-49 over Seton Hall. These are all huge wins. 78-40 over St. John, 77-40 at Providence, 101-59 against Butler. Huge wins. I don't know how many are 44.5 though. So, and against the Devil Lions, no less.
That is wild. Are you a play-in game guy?
No, the bracket is the bracket, and if you're not in it, I don't care about you. Red Wolves, by the way. Red Wolves, Arkansas State.
So I don't want to get too deep into this, but I don't follow college basketball like some people do. I'm very casual observer. Usually don't watch much at all until March Madness. Playing games for the 11 seed just seems like very like 16. I understand.
Say it.
But
it's bullshit.
11,
it's bullshit.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
right.
If you're good enough to be playing for the 11th seed, shouldn't you just be the 12th seed?
Yeah, but obviously with automatic bids and stuff, it gets in the way. Where like the Ivy League winner,
right,
shouldn't move up because there's not enough room for two teams. All due respect to Yale or whoever won the Ivy
Yeah.
League this year. I'm sure it was great, but I get that. But 11 is a bit much. I
I
would
don't
say
like it.
rethink the automatic bids if you have to do that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
ultimately, you know this, you cover the NFL, but all sports, everything's about the TV show and making more TV
It is.
shows.
I just like, do people, I know people watch the playing games, but like, it's not like an extra football playoff game. You know, aren't these games like played at the same time? It's like it.
They back them back to back. Like they'll get ratings. They'll rate.
I'm
Not
sure
like
they
an NFL
will.
game, but
Right.
I'm with you. I'm less than a casual fan of college basketball, so I'm a hater, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tonight, one game's at 6:40, one game's at no. One game's at 6:40, one game's at 9:10. So yeah, no, I guess that's true. UNC being part of a playing game, I'm sure they'll have more people watching this year.
Did you see
Um,
that the acting athletic director gets an extra $1 million or $100,000? Was it
yeah, something like that.
120,000 because they made the tournament and he's on the selection committee? That's incredible.
That is
Like,
truly,
guys, I think the
truly
Tar Heels
incredible.
really had a heck of a season, huh? Everyone's like, all right, Bill, you can have the $100,000. Congrats.
I'm gonna bring up another comment, and I don't mean to crap on this. I think this is a good illustration of there is no perfect prospect. So Richard Wright says Travis Hunter is too skinny.
Hmm.
Why not trade down, draft Tyler Warren, and get the extra pick? I don't get it. Don't overthink it. Like Travis Hunter's too skinny. Tyler Warren's too old. Like Tyler Warren's gonna be is like 24 years old. So like you can make the same nitpick about Tyler Warren. Also, first round tight ends usually don't really pan out that well. So like I don't know. I mean,
I would also
for
say, like, they're skinny, like Devontae Smith skinny, where you're like, oh my God, he's going to snap. Travis Hunter isn't that. And
I never thought of Travis Hunter as being skinny. I know he only weighed in at like 186 at the combine or whatever, but like when I watched him play, I was never like, that's a skinny dude. Yeah. To your point about Devontae Smith, like you watch Devontae Smith and you're like, that's the, Slim Reaper or whatever.
right.
With Travis Hunter, he just looks like a normal wide receiver or cornerback in college.
And he turns 22 in May. Like, theoretically, there's some more bulk to be put on.
For sure.
I would focus more on the height. Like, to me, if I'm drafting a receiver at 4, he's got to be taller than 6'1". But
Mm,
Hunter, to me, and again, I'm not breaking down the film and
yeah.
making determinations. He seems like just an elite ball skills kind of guy.
Right.
If the ball's in his area, he knows how to catch it. And the best I've ever seen at that was Antonio Brown, who was 5'10".
Right.
So
Yeah. Oh,
if
for
you
sure.
have that, you have it. Like, remember the game? I think it was week 1, banner night. Malcolm
Mhm.
Butler covered Antonio Brown and
Yeah.
was literally living inside Antonio Brown's jersey. And Brown still had like 10 for 115
Yeah.
and a touchdown. And it was
Yeah.
like, all right. I mean, I don't know
There's
what
nothing
else you're
you can
supposed
do.
to do.
Right.
Yeah. So
No, 100%.
I'm not saying Travis Hunter is the next Antonio Brown for a variety of reasons,
Yeah, for sure.
good and bad. But
Yeah.
that to me, I would have to, if I'm taking him at 4, I've got to think he has that type of
Right.
ball skills. And by all accounts, it seems as though he does.
Carlos says Travis Hunter's identical size to Ocho Cinco. And Ocho Cinco, once again, like a I never thought of him as being like, oh, that he's way too skinny. He was
Skinny
like
legs.
he was like a thinner wide receiver, but like Travis Hunter's got like muscle on him.
Yeah.
It's not like he's skinny out there.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty good.
I just want to say, if you could bring up the comment, I wish, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I wish I could have witnessed Michael Hurley's mind in its prime. No, you don't. You just, it's best to be a good 10 feet away at all times.
It's very true. Severance. I don't
Yeah.
want to give anything away. I'm caught up. I've watched the whole season.
Wow.
I haven't
Don't,
watched the whole season because I haven't seen the last episode yet, obviously. But I'm underwhelmed, I would say. And I know that
with
that's
season
like
2 or overall?
season 2. I
Okay.
know that's a pretty casual take, but it feels like they're just wading in water, or not wading. They're what's it called when you stay in place in water?
Treading
Treading
water.
water. There we go.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
just
they
feels like
did.
they're treading water to like prolong this series to be 5 seasons or whatever it is. And I just wish, I don't know.
Pardon
There's
me.
there's just a lot of fluff.
Don't mind the dongle, first of all,
Yeah.
as I play with the dongle for a moment.
Please
Having back
don't play with your dongle on air again. I've
in
talked to you
an
about this.
in an era, I can do what I want. It's my half of the screen. In an era when almost nothing comes out weekly,
Yeah,
to go with back-to-back bottle episodes
I know.
is a bold choice.
Yeah.
I'm one of the people that's fully engrossed. So I'm like, give it
Hmm.
to me. Give me another bottle episode. Give me a backstory on Milchick episode. You know,
Yeah.
I can do it. But it is a bold decision when people are waiting a week for an episode and last one was a cliffhanger and all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's backstory. And you're like, all right, well, I waited 2 weeks now, and
I
then
know.
it's backstory again. And you're kind of like, I understand it, but it has not bothered me one bit. Now, granted, you haven't seen last week's. I would say
No,
it's
no,
like
no. I
most.
did see last week's. Yeah. No,
Oh,
I haven't seen. I haven't seen like. I was saying that I haven't like watched ahead somehow.
you haven't seen the finale that has
I
yet
haven't
to
seen the
come out.
finale. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I would put last week's as just like any show's penultimate episode where you're like, well, that was a nice setup for the finale.
I
The
wanted
finale,
more. I wanted the last two episodes to be like full action, full
well, think,
answers.
I would say this. Think about how good the season one finale was,
Yeah,
to the point where it was a 3-year cliffhanger, which was
right.
unfortunate.
Well, that's
Um,
the other thing is that I don't want 3 years again between seasons, but we'll see
well,
about
it's
that.
actually popular now, so that should help.
That is true.
And as long as there aren't multiple strikes between now and then, but I would say I looked on the Apple TV episodes list. It said like an hour 17 for the
Oh, that's not
finale,
bad. Yeah,
so that's encouraging.
yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready to be fully enraptured, and I end up getting a lot of stuff on my algorithms on Twitter and on Reddit,
Mm.
and there's a lot of complaining, and I'm just kind of like, you don't have to watch. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people that feel
No, I know.
like it's brought it, but season 3 hasn't even been greenlit yet.
Oh my god. So I was wondering if they had filmed 2 and 3 at the same time, so it hasn't even been greenlit, so that's not possible.
Well,
That's
season 2,
crazy. Come
for a
on. What are we doing
variety of
here?
reasons, season 2 was like the most expensive TV show ever made.
Right.
Like Ben Stiller makes like 10 million an episode or something insane like
It's
that,
crazy.
and you have big time actors like Christopher Walken
Right.
and John Turturro,
Right.
even like Patricia Arquette. Like, there's
Yeah.
a lot. That I think that was a lot, and then they paid a lot of salaries through the strikes, I think.
Mm.
So I could see that, but Apple is like fake life. They just
Yeah.
like they came out with a movie one day with George Clooney and Brad Pitt, like two of the biggest movie stars ever,
Right.
and it had no press or like, oh, here's a movie you can watch. And it's like, what
Yeah.
is? You didn't tell anyone about this. You just
Right.
put it on here and hoped it would catch on. And it's like they just like Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right.
They weren't even going to release that in theaters.
It's craziness. You
And
you
then they
have if a movie is like 3 hours long, you have to release it in theaters because there are people like me who cannot get off your phone while watching that movie at home.
right, but it
So
was literally like, hey, we made this big movie.
no, I know. Yeah.
It has Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro in it. We don't need to make $1 back. We can just
Right.
put it out
Just
for
throw it out
9.99 a
there.
month. Yeah.
Let's see who watches it. Yeah.
So I don't think money will be a factor. I'm sure they're just waiting for the right time to announce season 3.
I know this has already been a joke. When you go to the gym or if you're just like around, have you ever seen the Drew Barrymore show on TV?
Doug, fun fact about me, I went to the gym. I'm just gonna get
Nice.
the massage gun out
Was the
for
Drew
you.
Barrymore show on TV at the time?
No, another funny thing about me is I used to work at the Central Broadcasting System, a local affiliate in WBZ, and sometimes it would be on there because I believe it was on Channel 4.
That like she I know it's like a meme at this point, but she sits so close to her guests. It's it's absurd. And her dog is usually in between too. So there's like zero space between like guest, dog, and Drew Barrymore.
Hmm.
It's a wild thing to do as a talk show host, but it seems to be working for her. So that's fun. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. Sitting interviews for TV, usually just like say a news thing. Remember, what's his name? The ESPN reporter, Jeff Darlington. Remember when he
Mhm.
went to Antonio Brown's house for an interview?
I think so, yeah.
I think it was like when he was working his way out of Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
and they were in like this big grand entrance, like sort
Yeah.
of like it looked like Beauty and the Beast's castle. And it was just these two chairs where like their knees were touching. And it was like, that's weird.
Couldn't have figured that out better. Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah.
There you go.
We said this episode was gonna be 30 minutes. It's an hour. So good on us. Good job. Great
Nailed
job.
it.
We'll see what happens in the next few days, but we will record an episode when something else happens, and we will talk to you guys then. Oh, still listening. I will drop a link in the show description on YouTube and in the podcast to join a March Madness pool. And if you join, half goes to LLS, winner gets the other half. And the password for it is Hallie. You have to Venmo me to join the pool. And like I said, it's $25. Half goes to LLS, half will be going to the winner. I'm killing time right now to pull up the group to drop it even in just the comment section of YouTube right now so that people know what I'm talking about. But I'm not like broadcasting this on Twitter so much just because I think that things could get kind of like unwieldy at that point with trying to figure out who everyone is, who's signing up, all those fun things. But I can't post comments to Twitter. So it'll be in the show description. Password Hallie, $25. You can Venmo me, Doug-Kyed. And yeah, I think that's it. Do you have anything more to say?
I just think you're looking great in a t-shirt. T-shirt weather's here.
It is t-shirt weather.
You go to the gym every day, so good for you.
Hell yeah. Rate, subscribe, review. We switched podcasting services again, so hopefully everyone's still subscribed. If you're
I quickly checked, and there's only one of our show in Apple and Spotify, so that's
huge.
a good start. That's a good start. We'll see what happens after this.
We've not posted an episode to the new service yet, so we'll see how that all goes. But all right, we'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye.